So when do you harvest for peak flavor? Well, there's a couple of things that comes to mind that it really makes a difference on. One of them is watermelons, and the other one is tomatoes. And with tomatoes, it can even be specific to types or the varieties that you're growing. So with watermelons, some of the commercial guys can actually pick them a little bit on the green side and ship them, and they will ripen a little bit. Now that's just a little bit, but what we look for in the home garden for harvesting watermelons is that nice creamy bottom right there, and this tendril right here. When this tendril dries up, as you see right here, that combination with this right here, it's time to harvest them. And that is a great indicator, or the indicator I use for when that watermelon, as it is peak ripeness and it's got the best flavor. Another thing too, you know, these are full of water, but hear that popping sound when I cut into it? That's another good indicator that baby is ripe. And ripeness on the watermelon makes all the difference in the world as far as the flavor goes. Now this one right here appears to be just a little bit on the ripe side, but it's still going to be great. Oh, I eat these things 2 or 3 a day. This is a yellow doll, if you don't know, which is a small personal size watermelon, yellow meated. I grow these about every other year. I've been growing sangria every other year and these every other year. Next year I'm going back to my old time favorite Crimson Sweet. This is a great variety right here. I love growing these right here. They're disease resistant, easy to grow, and it's a good size to put in the refrigerator for, you know, for just a couple people in your household. You know, some things we do harvest as immature fruits. Okra, squash, cucumbers come to mind. We harvest those when they're small, they're tender, they're, you know, got plenty of flavor, and that's the time we like to eat them. We don't want them to get big and get large or mature because they get meaty or tough. So there are things in the garden that we want to get as immatures. But this right here, we want to let this thing get as ripe as we can because this thing is full of flavor when it's ripe. Now, if you go to the grocery store, you're probably going to be buying a tomato that was harvested when it was immature. Maybe it was green and they gassed it. A lot of that goes on. Or maybe it was picked or harvested when it was pink, or maybe an orange color, so that it had time to ripen and have more shelf life. But one of the things that we have a heads up or an up on in the home garden is we can grow our vine ripe tomatoes, and we can get that intense flavor of letting that tomato stay on that vine and maturing out. And that makes all the difference in the world. And that's a huge benefit of growing tomatoes in a backyard vegetable garden. Well, some of these varieties, we're able to leave them on the vine longer because they can hold up there more so than we can others. Now, some of the heirlooms will get soft and crack on you pretty bad, and they just don't do really good by leaving them on the vine late and taking a chance on them. So we've all been guilty of seeing a nice tomato out there and go ahead and harvesting it before it's ripe because we're scared something's going to happen to it, worms or anything. So we want to go ahead and get it. But some of these newer varieties that we really love, and this is the red snapper right here, and I'm going to classify the red snapper, Bella Rosa, and the hostinator in this class, and there's more of them out there. These things were bred to really hold up well on the vine. You can see here, this thing has very little cracking, folks. We've had a lot of rain the last 10 days, about 12 inches. And we've got very minimal cracking, just a little bit right there. On an heirloom type tomato, you're gonna see a lot more of that, but these varieties here are very clean. They get good size on them and they hold on the vine well. Here's the thing, to maximize that flavor on these types, we need to leave them on the vine as long as possible. Well, with all the rain we've had, I'm gonna be a little more aggressive than I normally would on harvesting these tomatoes here, but you look in there, they're getting coloring up pretty well. Look in there, just loading up. So what I wanna do is I just wanna pick this colored tomato and redder. The rest of them, I'm gonna leave on the vine and let them mature out. Now that one there, I'm gonna pull out. But you can see in there, the water is really having an effect on our tomatoes right here. That's a nice one right there, got a little blemish right there. I'm actually going to leave that one a little bit longer so it can mature out on that vine to have a better flavor. This is unlike a lot of your varieties. So a lot of your varieties, your heirlooms, you want to harvest in this stage right here, put inside and let them continue to ripen up. But these type, when I say these type, I'm talking about red snapper, hostinator, and Bella Rosas. You can actually leave on the vine and let them mature out. And the flavor on these are a lot better when you do that. So I have to be kind of real picky as I go through here to see the ones that I want to harvest. A lot of them I'm going to leave. That one right there is a little on the iffy side, so I'm going to go ahead and get it. And then we get down here where some of the vines is going bad at. I'm going to reach in there and get that one right there. It's not a big tomato, but that tomato right there is ready for picking. There's another one right there. Now that one right there is the stage I love to pick these at, or harvest these at. And if you look in there, they're starting to color up a lot. Most people classify this in the tomato industry as a deep orange, not exactly red ripe. But I'm gonna go ahead and harvest some of these because my vines are going back. But I don't like to harvest them before they get to this stage here because of that flavor profile. It's really tempting to go ahead and harvest some of these light orange ones there, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hold off and get these darker ones right here. And I like to take a little stem off of them when I harvest them the best I can, because sometimes that will puncture some of the rest of them when you put them in your bucket. Here's another prime example. I'm going to go ahead and get this big one right here, but I'm going to leave these other two for another day or so. See the color on them there? I want more of that deep orange color before I harvest those. Now this purple boy held up pretty good, a little crack there, but my tomatoes are struggling somewhere underneath there. This one's got more of that dark purple modeling to it. And I'm gonna go ahead and harvest that one right there, but I normally wouldn't harvest these before it gets to this stage right here. Now my cherry and grape tomatoes, I treat them the same way. I like them to fully mature on the vine to harvest them right there. So this is I believe this is Mountain Vineyard right here. It's looking good. You can see there the orange ones right there. I'm going to leave those a little later. Got plenty of ripe ones in there. These dark red ones, that's when they're full of flavor. Theoretically, you could pick these right here and let them ripen inside, but I find that the flavor is a lot more powerful when you let them ripen on that vine. Now peppers, to me, it's not as important about when you harvest them as far as flavor goes. This right here, this Gold Rush banana right here, is ready for harvest. Now one way I can tell that is, see, it snaps off real easy. Of course, it's nice and has that good color to it, and that's a good indicator there. But when you grab that pepper and it snaps off real easy, you know you did the right thing about harvesting. And bales is another thing that's really nothing to stress over about when to harvest those. When they get a decent size to you there, go ahead and harvest them if that's what you want. It's a green bale. You can leave these on the vine and they'll change colors and they'll mature out and you can harvest them later. But it's not near as important of when to harvest these bales and bananas, in my opinion, it is other things such as watermelons and tomatoes. So if you're growing some of these newer varieties such as Mountain Vineyard, Halstenader, Red Snapper, Bella Rosa, and they plenty more than that, understand these things were bred to be left on the vine for vine ripes for that intense good flavor, unlike some of our older varieties. So even under adverse conditions like we've had here, last 10 days, we've had 12 inches of rain. And these tomatoes are holding up exceptionally well. Very minimum cracking right there, and I've lost very few to them blowing up or splitting. So keep in mind, leave these on the vine, let them get as red as possible before you harvest them, and they're gonna make you a lot better tomato sandwich.